What if I told you that we already have one of the most powerful solutions to eradicate poverty? What if I told you that we already have one of the most powerful tools to end and fight world hunger? And what if I told you that part of the pathway toward the world peace we speak about so often is already standing in front of us or sitting next to you or probably lives in front of you? Would you invest in it? Would governments prioritize it? Would businesses finance it? Would communities build around it? Would the world finally treat it as essential? Because the solution I am talking about is not a new technology. It's definitely not artificial intelligence. It's quiet, natural. It is not another economic theory. It is something that has been here all along. And you know them, and you're probably it. I am talking about women. Yes, women. We see the statistics, we review the research, we hold conferences, we write policies, we create development goals, and still, somehow, we continue pursuing uncertainties while under investing in the one thing that has been proven time and time again, generation after generation, that when it rises, entire community, entire nations rise with it. And this is investing in women. So I want to stop right now and I'm going to say, stop supporting women. Start investing in women. That's the most important thing. But today I want to challenge you to go even further because perhaps even the language of investing in women is not enough. Maybe I'm just saying it's not going to be enough. For too long, women's empowerment has been placed under the category of social intervention, right? Social programs, project, small program, or a big program, a charitable initiative, a grant, something good to do when our resources allow it, but not the most important thing. I believe we need to change that thinking entirely. So please stop supporting women. Because the way you are supporting women is not working. Definitely not. Women are not intervention. Women are infrastructure. What do I mean by infrastructure? So close your eye. So when we hear the word infrastructure, we think of roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, electricity, internet connectivity, right? We're talking so much about that digital divide, financial systems. We call these things infrastructure because we can't imagine societies working and functioning effectively without them because they connect people to opportunity. They allow economies to grow. They make development possible. But I want you to think about something, and I want you to close your eyes again. Imagine a world, and let's just say that for 3 hours, women do not do anything. Nothing. Nothing. They don't exist. Who raises the child who eventually walks to our schools? Who passes knowledge, values, language, culture from one generation to the other? Who increasingly creates businesses out of nowhere just to survive? Who manages farms, wakes up early in the morning just to be that other pair of hands, or maybe the only pair of hands because they're small, because they're nimble, because they're agile. Educates children from the moment that they wake up until they go to sleep. Who leads organizations and who sustains communities today? Women do. So why is it so hard for us to finally take a stand and invest in women, just like we invest in the roads and in the bridges and in the schools? Because when women have greater access to education, capital, technology, property, networks, and economic opportunity, that investment doesn't remain just with her. It's been proven that 90% of every cent that she makes goes back to her family, her community, and her nation, compared to her counterpart. You see, when she really works and she invests, everything moves. It moves with the families, it moves through communities, it moves through economy, and eventually it moves through generations. And that is infrastructure. The evidence has been telling us this for years, time and time again. We see the studies, we read them, we're not lying. It's not Virginia talking about it, or Virginia, or Dr. Teresa. These are studies that are being conducted every single year. We don't do anything with that evidence. The evidence has always been pointing us in the direction for decades. Look, the Food and Agriculture Organization estimated that if women farmers had the same access to productive resources as men do, they could increase yields on their farms by 20 to 30%. And you know what that estimate really represents? 100 to 150 million fewer hungry people worldwide. It's not me saying it. That is the truth. Those are the studies. That is what the Food and Agriculture Organization says. So think about it. It's not a new crop, not a revolutionary machine. We're talking about a miracle. We're talking about access. Give women farmers comparable access to lands, tools, financing, training, and resources. And food security will change completely. Then let's look at the economy. McKinsey Global Institute modeled what could happen if women participated in the economy identically to men. If we did the same thing, the full potential estimate was staggering. As much as 28 trillion additional annual global GDP by 2026, compared with a business as usual scenario. $28 trillion. And it's probably even more. Now, that was a model economic scenario published in 2015, not $28 trillion that simply appeared in the economy. No. The message behind it is if we gave women the same opportunities, the same access that we give men, this is what would happen immediately. Immediately. Leaving women economically behind is extraordinarily expensive for all. And there's another part to this story. Evidence reviewed by institutions, including the World Bank, has repeatedly shown that when women have greater control over household resources, spending patterns often shift toward things that strengthen the next generation. And that is education, health, nutrition, housing. So when you invest in a woman, you may see the return immediately, today, but you may also see it 20 years from now, when that child that went to school has a life with a different trajectory. But you may also see it now, immediately. And I think that is what really, I want to stress upon you. When you invest in women, you invest in generations. So I am here to talk to you about women and Mahila Unyami and women as infrastructure, right? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about India. And why India? Well, for me, the answer is both practical and deeply human. India is one of the most extraordinary places in the world to examine the possibilities of women's economic empowerment. Actually, you can try anything there. The vast number of people is the greatest place to do anything. It is a nation of enormous scale, extraordinary talent, entrepreneurship, technology, agriculture, traditions, innovation, young people. The youngest workforce in the world is in India. When we look at the rest of the world, it's an aging workforce. And they have tremendous economic ambition. But within this extraordinary story, there are millions of women, 700 million plus women, whose talent and economic potential can still be expanded dramatically through greater access. And that word, access, became incredibly important to me. In 2023, I arrived in India to receive an award. It was an award for a program for my NGO that I have in Puerto Rico called Mujer Emprende Latina. And Mujer Emprende Latina is an education services provider. And our education is mostly entrepreneurial, business, and digital. We want to make sure that women have access to the education they need in order to have successful enterprises. Because we believe that financial autonomy is the most important thing to change everything that we've been doing, to change the narrative. So since 2016, I have been working with Mujer Emprende Latina. I co-founded this with 4 other amazing women. We're still going strong. We've impacted over 75,000 women that we have in our registry, but most importantly, 3,000 businesses that are sound today, that are working, that are up and going, that are thinking of expanding or scaling, because we believe in access. So when I went to India and I saw the sheer magnitude of what it was, I was like, why can't we do that here? Right? So what does this mean? It means when you really think about it and you realize so often we describe women as lacking ability when they really actually lack access because they're capable, they're resourceful, we see it every single day, but they do not have access to training, access to capital, access to technology, access to mentors, access to networks, access to places where they can actually go and learn while they are caring for their children, their elderly, their homes. Sometimes even access to the confidence, right? That comes when somebody finally says, your idea matters. What you're telling me, I am sitting down and I am listening to you. And that realization helps shape what would become Mujer Emprende Latina's sister in India, Mahila Udyami Foundation. So Mujer Emprende in Hindi is Mahila Udyami. So Mahila Udyami was born. It's a public trust in India. I am very proud of this. Mahila Udyami means something very simple. Women entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur. But entrepreneurship for us is larger than registering a business. It represents agency. It represents stability, the ability to earn, the ability to make choices, the ability to participate economically, the ability to imagine a different future and have the tools to build the future that you deserve and that you want. Freedom, dignity, prosperity. Mahila Udyami Foundation was created around this simple vision. Freedom, dignity, prosperity. Not prosperity without dignity and not opportunity without freedom. All three. Because economic empowerment is ultimately choices. Can she learn? Can she earn? Can she own? Can she participate? Can she decide? Can she lead? Can she build something that belongs to her? So this took us from an idea to our institution. And today, something extraordinary is happening. Mahila Udiami Foundation is no longer simply an idea or the Mujer Emprende Latina sister org. We are now officially registered as a public trust in India, the most populated country in the world, with the most amount of women in one place. I am incredibly proud of this milestone, but I also understand something really important. A registration certificate does not change a woman's life. Women, we build with it. Women, we build with this. This is what we will build. A building does not empower a woman. What happens inside that building is what empowers her. A training program does not automatically create financial autonomy. What a woman is able to do with that knowledge does. You see where you come in. This is where you say, yes, I get it. I understand. So our responsibility as a collective is not simply to create an organization or different organizations. Our responsibility is to create system, not program, system. An ecosystem that supports what she needs in order to really be successful. So how do we build this infrastructure? So I'm going to tell you, I just am not making this up. Any village, Uttar Pradesh or UP in India, something very special is physically rising. The Mahila Udiami Global Women's Empowerment and Business Hub, brick by brick, wall by wall. What began as a conversation and maybe just seeing a bunch of women together saying, hey, what can we do with all these women here in India? Went to the drawing table and it became a physical space. But when I look at those bricks that it's really happening, I don't see just the building. I see possibility. I see a woman learning to use technology for the very first time, and that means turning on a device. I see another woman developing a product, maybe one that she's always had. She just didn't know how to document, how to make the process, how to even price it. I see women understanding money, pricing, credit, and financial autonomy. I see entrepreneurs sitting together solving problems. I see mentors sharing knowledge. I see girls encountering possibilities they never thought they could just because we're there. But not as saviors. Please eradicate that from your brain. Because as humans, we took action. Because we just didn't talk because I'm tired of people talking. I'm tired of conferences. I'm tired of these videos that don't end in anything. So today, I'm telling you, if you're listening to me, ask yourself, why have I not believed after every statistic and study that shows that women have the answer? And you may be that woman. You need to reach out. You need to grow. You need to talk to others. You need to share what you know. But if you have something and you feel that you haven't been able to do anything with it, let us know. Reach out. Mahila Udiami is here. I see so much more than a movement. I see wellness. I see leadership. I see communities coming and becoming stronger. And perhaps the most important thing, I see women realizing one important, most fundamental thing. I can do this. This is why we're building. This is why I am here sharing this with you. This is why Dr. Teresa wanted me to speak to you. Because the women that are saying I can, they're building. They're not creating dependency. They're creating capacity. Our four pillars are very important. Our work is developing around four interconnected, right? Education, because knowledge creates possibility. Entrepreneurship, because economic participation creates choices. Financial autonomy. Digital inclusion, because in the economy that is happening now, that is building today, digital exclusion can quickly become an economic exclusion. And we have to stop that. And advocacy, because empowering individual women is important. But changing the systems surrounding those women is how impact becomes sustainable. I'm going to repeat that. When we empower individual women, that's great. But changing the system surrounding those women is how impact becomes sustainable. Not only for now, for future generations. So we are not four separate programs. Each program reinforces one another. Education creates capability, technology expands access, advocacy helps remove the barriers that keep opportunity from becoming normal. From saying, yeah, just go over there and you can get that. That is called infrastructure. And this is what we believe in. Women are not intervention. Women are infrastructure. But Mahila will not stop just in India. And this brings me to my next chapter. If this idea is really true, if women really are infrastructure, as I am stating today, because I believe it 100%, then this cannot be only an Indian conversation, because economic exclusion does not have one nationality. A woman in rural India may face different circumstances from a woman in Kenya or in Peru. A woman in Puerto Rico may face completely different barriers from a woman in Nigeria. A woman in Peru may need something different from a woman in Lebanon. Culture matters, geography matters, history matters, local context matters. And therefore, going global cannot mean copying one Indian model and exporting it everywhere. That's not what we're talking about. That's not empowerment. It's just copying a program. And this happens every single time. It worked in Iceland, so let's make it work everywhere else. That's not the way this goes. Our global vision must be locally led. We don't want to arrive in a community and say, hey, here's what women need. This is Virginia Riveria saying, no. We want to ask, what do women here say they need? Then we listen. We connect. We build partnerships. We share knowledge. And we help create infrastructure that allows local women to build their own solution. See, this is how systems are created, so they can support. So this is rooted in India because this is where we're starting. But if we really, really, really look at the story, it started all the way in a tiny little island in Puerto Rico with 3 million, 1.5 million women. So I could probably do anything in that island, right? It's my island. But the truth is, we need something bigger. And this is why India was chosen. But not only that, a great partner was brought in the scenario, and that is Advocate Piyush Pandit. Advocate Piyush Pandit has this incredible piece of land, large, in a very rural area in India. And his dream was to have a school where every child had an opportunity to go to school. He also has Swarna Bharat Parivar. Swarna Bharat Parivar Trust is a nonprofit that has been helping these communities and working with these communities hand in hand, for the last almost 20 years. But when we met, we both saw the opportunity. It was not just women empowerment. It was women's economic empowerment. We both agreed that this is where the narrative changes. So we are rooted in India, where Advocate Piyush Pandit is from, but we're building globally because we both belong to the world. India will always matter profoundly to Mahina's story. This is where we saw so many women, so much capacity, so much resourcefulness. It is where this foundation took institutional root. It is where our physical center is, and it's rising beautifully. It is where our earliest women are waiting for an opportunity. It's part of our identity. But roots are not supposed to imprison a tree, right? Roots make growth possible. So we are rooted in India, but we are building globally. And it starts with you. Today, you're listening to me, who knows from where, but take this idea with you and think about it. Mahila Udyami is also you. It is you. Help it. Finally, create the system that need to support the women so they can attain financial autonomy, not just for them, but for the world that we know we can build. One that ends poverty, one that builds world peace, and one very important one that ends hunger, with so many other things, because it has been proven women can do this. As we expand, our vision is not to create thousands of beneficiaries. Our vision is to cultivate leaders who become entrepreneurs, women who become mentors, women who become educators, women who teach other women, women who return to their communities and say, someone opened a door for me. Now I am going to hold that door open for someone else. And this is how a program becomes a system, a movement. And it doesn't just stay in the program. So we have a dream, right? And our dream, and we're inviting you to join us, is 1 million girls and women. We have set ourselves an ambitious vision. And why 1 million? 1,000, we've already attained. 10,000, we're very pretty close. Even 100,000, we've done. Mujer Emprende Latina is almost there. 1 million means that 100 women were able to create 1,000 groups of women. And it's in the sheer value that we can see this change. 1 million may sound enormous, but it really isn't. But it's definitely a challenge. But we're counting on you. I don't want us to become obsessed with that number. So please, it's not that we have to have 1 million, because everyone is a human being. Every one person. One woman, one dream, one family, one possibility. And impact does not happen because we put 1 million names in a database. Please, that's the one thing we don't want to happen. It happens when one woman becomes economically stronger. And that strength becomes a multiplier. It becomes a multiplier effect. Imagine one woman becoming an entrepreneur and employing other women. Let's say five women. Imagine one woman learning digital skills and teaching 20 girls. Just 20. Imagine one farmer improving her income and educating her daughters. Imagine one mentor creating 10 more mentors. That is the model that really excites me. That is the model that I am speaking to you about today. Not growth through dependency, growth through multiplication. And this is not for the elite. This is not for the top tier ladies that make over 6 figures. There's so many of those organizations out there. And I sort of understand why. We figure if we get all those women together, then those women are going to, trickle down and help other women. You know what? It hasn't happened. It just hasn't not happened. They just hang out together. They have fun together. They stand in conferences, they stand on stages, they applaud each other. But where is the real impact? So if you're tired of those conferences and you realize that you do have what it takes to create impact, join us. It just takes you finding where you want to be and how you're going to impact it. So my global invitation, I am not asking you simply to support Mahila Udiami Foundation. I am asking you to reconsider how we think about women in development altogether. Stop asking only, how do you help women? And start asking the most important question. What becomes possible when women have equal power to build? What happens to poverty? What happens to hunger? What happens to education? What happens to entrepreneurship? What happens to community? What happens to peace? Because perhaps we have spent too much time seeing women as people who need solutions, when women themselves are among the world's greatest sources of solutions. And if you don't believe me, look up the statistics. When we have women in boardrooms, how much better does that company do? When we have women in company leadership, how much better in sustainability does that company do? When we have women making fair and just salaries, who gets impacted? Who leads the majority of communities in the world? Women. So today I want to talk to you about the rural woman. 60% or more the women around the world live in the rural areas. And these areas are remote. Many times they're marginalized simply because they're remote. And our women there, which are the majority of the women in the world, then stay behind. Not because they lack capacity, not because they lack resources. So in closing, I want to return to the question I asked you at the very beginning. What if I told you that we already have one of the most powerful solutions to poverty? Would you invest? What if I told you, that giving women greater access to agricultural resources could help feed millions of more people? Would you invest? What if I told you that women's economic participation represents trillions of dollars in unrealized economic potential? Would you invest? What if I told you that when women gain greater economic power, the benefits can travel into the health, education, and opportunities of the next generation? Would you finally invest? Then perhaps the question is no longer whether investing in women works. Perhaps the real question is, why aren't we doing it at the scale the evidence demands? At Mahila Udiami Foundation, we have decided that we will. One woman, one entrepreneur, one village, one community, one country, and eventually one global movement. Because women, a woman is not a project. She is not a statistic. She is not a beneficiary. She is a builder. She's an economic force. She is a multiplier. She is. And when the world finally begins investing in women accordingly, we will not simply change women's lives. This is why, to me, it's a no-brainer. Women will change the world. Mahila Udiami Foundation believes it. Freedom, dignity, and prosperity. Because women are infrastructure. They're not infrastructure. Thank you so, so much for this opportunity. You can find out more about Mahila Udiami Foundation at mahilaudiami.org. Please join us. Please donate anything to build her future, because her future is going to happen no matter what. But it would be so much faster for the benefit of all of us if you joined us. So thanks again, everyone. It's been such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dr. Teresa, for this incredible opportunity. Thank you for believing in women. Because it's not by faith, it's by science, it's by statistics, it's by evidence. I know in my heart that you will do the right thing. And you just needed this information. So take care, everyone. Namaste.